All right, good evening. We are live. We're going to start our tech checks before we get into Faulty Logic Fridays. And we're just going to make sure everything is working on this end because we almost always mute ourselves when we start. Before we get into Faulty Logic. All right, looks like we're good there. But there's one more thing I need to do just on my end, and I can hear it coming through the speakers, and it should be coming through my headset. All right, let's see if we've got it now. Okay, good. We've got it. Let's see if we can get sound from the video now. All right. We cannot. All right, we'll need to fix that. Don't know why that happens every time, but it does indeed happen every time. Oh, I know why it happened. Okay. Can't believe I made that mistake, but I do make mistakes like that all the time. All right, now let us see what happens.
Of representing, operating on, or
Okay, let's see if we can get sound on my end now. Get it to the end here. See what happens.
representing, operating on.
Okay, good. We have sound. All right, that means everything is good to go. All right, for those of you who don't know, I am the Mad Computer Scientist. We are 2 subscribers away from hitting the custom URL. We already have the banner up. So if you would do me a favor and hit the subscribe button and ring that notification bell, that would be great. If you would also like to leave a comment about this video or any future topics you'd like me to cover, you can do that as well. And welcome to Faulty Logic Fridays. Normally I discuss math and computer science topics that are of interest to me. On Fridays, we do something a little different. We try to look for bizarre videos and see if we can spot the logical fallacies. Tonight, we're talking with someone named Ben Van Kerkwyk, or at least talking at, because he's not going to be able to hear us. He seems to have an interesting idea about the ancient Egyptians, and he says they have Turing machines. Now, if you study computer science, you know why the ancient Egyptians did not have Turing machines, but let's see what he has to say.
Manufacturing the design of this artifact exists without having access to one such. He's saying that you cannot have made this without the use of a Turing machine.
And we're a little far ahead of where we should be. That's interesting. We need to go back. All right, let's go back and see if we can get it. Hello, what the Beck? How are you doing?
Cent.
Can you explain what the golden ratio is for people who might not know?
So people don't know, golden ratio is the aspect or the ratio of the universe. The golden ratio is a fundamental principle of the world. Like it seems to be an encoded.
All right, let's look up what the golden ratio actually is, because I don't think that's a good definition. I mean, it is found in a lot of things. I believe it's actually found in the Fibonacci sequence, but I'm not sure. All right, so let's get a definition from Wikipedia. That's a good working definition. In mathematics, 2 quantities are in the golden ratio if their ratio is the same as the ratio of their sum to the larger of the 2 quantities. Okay. Mathematicians have studied the golden ratio's properties since antiquity. It is the ratio of a regular pentagon's diagonal to its side, and thus appears in the construction of the dodecahedron and icosahedron. I'm not sure I pronounced that last one right, but that tells us what it is. So maybe I was wrong about it being connected to the Fibonacci sequence. Let us continue.
Ratio that is it's encoded from DNA up to the formation.
The Golden ratio is encoded from DNA? What?
Of galaxies. It's 1.6, etc., etc. I can't actually remember exactly what it is.
It's an irrational number. You're not going to be able to remember exactly what it is if you express it in decimal format or fractional format. However, since it's normally represented, I believe, by the Greek letter phi, you can say its exact value is phi, not pi, which is a different concept.
But it's a ratio expressed by living things. It also can be found by.
Oh, good grief. I'll have to fix the comment now. You have no idea how many times I actually tried to get that right. But there's 2 errors in it, actually. And one's a math error. But to be fair, I thought it was right when I made that error. All right, let's see if we've got it right now. Just set it up here. It's going to take some time. And now we'll have the ticker going. There we go.
By basic geometry. We went through it with the Randall Carlson podcast about how to define the ratio, but it can be expressed in the human body in terms of how it grows from the length of your hand down to the gap in the gap in your wrist here, and that's one part of the ratio. The other parts of it is down to here. It's the ratio is a line.
Your arm was part of the ratio. What? No, that's your arm. A ratio is basically a fraction, a proportion. Your arm is not a proportion, it's your arm.
That is dissected where the ratio of the small to the large is exactly the same as the large to the whole, right?
Thank you for showing me you do in fact know what a ratio is.
Right? So it's hard to think about, but it's like take a line, the point where you dissect it, where the ratio of size is of the small piece where you've dissected it, the ratio of that to the larger piece is exactly the same as the ratio of the larger piece to the to the whole. So it's like
Got it.
A and B, B to A is to A plus B.
Mhm.
That's the equation for it.
Right.
And it's expressed in life, right? Everything that grows, organic material.
I don't think he quite got the math right on that one, but I'm going to let it go.
The human body, conch shells is the famous one. It's the Fibonacci sequence is attached to this. It's you take a cross section of a DNA molecule, you find the golden ratio.
You take a cross section of the DNA molecule and you find a golden ratio. Do you? Let's Google that one briefly, because I think he's making that one up. I bet we're even going to find some New Age sites that do agree with him, though. Okay. Well, if I can trust this journal, and I don't know... Oh, that's not a journal, it's an org site. I don't know what it's connected to. But it does look like there might be some validity to this. But I'm going to continue because I have no idea.
It's in the spiral helix of the DNA molecule. It's in the structure of galaxies. It seems to be a fundamental constant of the universe. And that's why I think the fact that it gets expressed in these artifacts and
I am pretty sure no physicist considers the golden ratio to be a fundamental constant of the universe. I'm pretty sure there are definite things physicists define as fundamental constants of the universe, and the golden ratio is not one of them. The speed of light is one of them, if I recall correctly. I think the gravitational constant is another, as well as the Hubble constant.
And in fact, this sort of geometry, even radians themselves, they're showing us, the builders of this are showing us that...
Radians? Okay, radians is a way to measure a circle. There are 2 pi radians in a circle.
There's a language behind this. They're showing us their capabilities. This vase to me, represents something of almost like a time capsule. It's like something that's sent through time to us that is expressing the degree of knowledge and understanding that its creators had of the universe and of their system, even their system of mathematics. I have a slide on this later, but there was I want to finish talking about the vase because there's there's some interesting implications
Oh, great, we're talking about a vase. That'll make this even more exciting.
about the maths that we've been going through. I'm not doing it just for the sake of math.
Wait, okay, I guess we have been going through maths. But can you get to your point?
But come back to that time capsule idea in a minute. But so when
Oh, but the time capsule was at least interesting.
you think about the design of the vase and how it's been made very precisely in rose granite, and there's a mathematical design that's behind it, right? We get to a point where we're like, all right, so the precision, the complexity, the depth of interrelation between the features really rules out random chance. This artifact was 100% designed. And it's like, okay, so
Was anyone questioning that the vase wasn't designed? It's not like we know vases to come out of thin air.
how could you design this? Can you design it on paper?
Yes, you could.
Remember that there are circles that have a radius of 1 millimeter, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine if you're trying to draw that at scale. I'd challenge anyone, try and draw a circle with a compass that's got a radius of 1 millimeter and see how you go. And then be able to execute that down to the thousandth of an inch. Remember, it's been...
And how do we know it's down to the thousandth of an inch? That seems to be a claim you're making, and you're not providing any sources.
It's made extremely precisely. You might be able to draw it out on a piece of paper that's as big as the room. But
well, of course, the Egyptians would have used AutoCAD the same as anyone else, or computer-aided manufacturing software, such as the AutoCAM extension for AutoCAD, because you're about to say something really interesting now.
Then you still have to scale it down somehow. It's got to find its way to an output somehow. You've got to be able to carve this thing in granite somehow.
Well, of course, the ancient Egyptians sent it to their printer, but HP wouldn't let their printer work because HP was charging them to use their printer on a monthly scale.
I think the best way, and Mark proved that the best way to design this is mathematically, right?
Wait, you mean you use math to design things? I'm shocked.
Designed with the maths. We can express it with an equation.
We can express it with an equation. Okay, what is that equation?
Once you've got that equation, you've got that mathematical design, you have to then do the same thing. You've got to get it to output somehow. So how do you take it from a design to an output and into an output?
Well, after you pay HP, you just print it out. Of course, if it's a 3D printer, you need to have the filament material as well.
Output of a system that is extremely accurate. Like this, just be able to make something like this in rose granite would require some of our very best precision lathes or precision mills. And you're talking about extremely sturdy and firm bearings and rods and turn screws. And it is a whole lot of capability in this, right?
Oh, great. So the Egyptians had CNC machines.
It's been made with astonishing precision. And the fact that we know that because of the area between the vase handles, right? It's extremely precise. Like they didn't lose positional calibration when they changed tools to make the vase handle, or it was made on a 5-axis mill in a single pass.
It was made on a 5-axis mill in a single pass. Okay.
And this is kind of where that evidence and logical leads. And I like to use this.
That evidence and logical leads? Listen, I know it's a live broadcast, so I won't pick on your pronunciation too much.
To quote directly from Mark's article where he wrote about this, and this is what he said, quoting Mark: "As far as we know, no human beings, trained animals, or naturally occurring phenomena, modern or ancient, take mathematical formulae and equations as input and produce lathe operating motions as outputs. For all the knowledge and insights we've accumulated over the ages, we know of exactly one and only one category of things capable of such behavior. The kind of thing that we refer to as a Turing machine."
No, we don't. And I'm going to tell you why we don't refer to it as a Turing machine right now. Now, I know this is probably a nitpick, because you probably didn't understand the difference between a Turing machine and a Turing Complete device, but a Turing machine is a theoretical construct created, of course, by Alan Turing. The way it was formulated is the Turing machine is a mechanical device that has an infinite tape, a read-write head, and discrete cells on the tape, and some way of changing state based on the data on the tape. You can move the tape backward and forwards, and using this method, you can compute anything that can be computed. Now, if you were paying attention, you know the reason no one has built a Turing machine, other than just like scale models of what a Turing machine might look like, is because we don't have infinite tape anywhere. Even if we were to make a modern electronic equivalent of a Turing machine, we are still not able to make an infinite memory source.
A device capable of taking input, holding state, performing operations on held states, according to predetermined principles, and producing output.
Yes, that's what we call Turing Complete.
Now, you can make Turing machines mechanically, pneumatically, electronically.
All right, let's stop calling them Turing machines and call them what everyone calls them now. Because first of all, as I pointed out, they're not Turing machines. And secondly, let's just use the word computer because that's what you mean. You can make computers out of anything we can build logic gates out of, including dominoes, believe it or not. We can make pneumatic computers. We can make electronic computers, of course. We can make hydraulic computers. We can even make purely mechanical computers. And in fact, the first computer ever proposed was a purely mechanical device. Look up Charles Babbage's analytical engine.
Hydraulically, but we call this class of device a computer, and no plausible way of representing, operating on, or manufacturing the design of this artifact exists without having access to one such.
Okay, that's a claim. I would like some evidence for that. But let's also say that the reason we know the ancient Egyptians did not have any form of computers, at least until new archaeological discoveries are made, is that the oldest computer known is something known as the Antikythera mechanism. It was found in ancient Greece, and it uses gearing essentially to show the motion of the planets. And the ancient Greeks used this to be able to determine when they should hold the Olympic Games. Now, it's also, I believe, stored in a museum to keep nerds from installing Doom or Linux on it, because, well, let's face it, that's what nerds are going to do.
He's saying that you cannot have made this without the use of a Turing machine, aka a computer.
Yes, he's saying that, but you don't have to keep saying Turing machine. You can just say computer. You're specifically saying a specific type of computer. You're saying it was made with a CNC lathe. Now, I have never seen any Egyptologist mention CNC lathes. I've never even seen it in the Pearl of Great Price, which says a lot of ridiculous things about Egypt.
Be able to take that design and produce the output to get the result that we see in this. It's a very interesting statement.
You're making a lot of claims I'm not even sure are correct, but we do know the Egyptians were skilled craftsmen, and they can certainly produce an intricate vase if they took the time and the effort. I don't know where this vase was found. I'm assuming it was probably found in either a temple or a tomb, where they're going to put forth their best.
That's a mind fuck. That's what we like to call a mind fuck.
Yeah. Yeah, and it did fuck with the mind of one of these engineers that did the original analysis of it. Remember we talked about the metrology at the start, one of these aerospace engineer guys?
Yes.
So Mark does this. And this guy's name's Nick, and he called me up. He's like, Mark puts out his article, and it took me, you got to read this article a few times and figure out the math and trying to really digest it and see what it means. And for me, this is validation. I'm like, this is magic. This is confirming some of the things that I've long suspected, and I've held this particular worldview for a while that, all right, there was technology in the past.
Of course there was technology in the past. For heaven's sakes, technology has been with humans for all of human existence. The earliest technology we ever invented was probably simple weapons, then more complex weapons, and then fire. Now, the Egyptians did have some advanced technology for their time. They did have advanced mathematics. I'm not questioning that. They had advanced tools for their time, and they had advanced architectural techniques. But they did not have computers.
Nick, he was amazed by the metrology. He was like, this thing's incredibly precise, scratching his head, didn't know. But it wasn't until he really sort of chewed on Mark's article. He's like, he calls me up one day and he's like, dude, I have to talk to you about this. This thing it's keeping me up at night. It's like I wake up in a fucking sweat thinking about this vase because you could tell it had kind of
I often wake up in cold sweats thinking about vases because that's a normal thing to do.
shattered his worldview. It had like changed. He's like, I can't explain this or rationalize it.
Are you going to tell us you needed to take a cold shower after thinking about the vase?
Without this type of technology, what the hell was going on in the past? And he said something to me that I was like, I put into a slide here, which I thought was really interesting. Some of the things that I've said, that I think this artifact is much more than just a simple vase.
This artifact is much more than a simple vase, okay? Encoded within it are the principles of sacred geometry, the very fabric of the universe. Okay, so this guy agrees with the spirit science guy. It tells a tale of its creator's capability, their elegance, their knowledge, even their mathematical system, and the way they viewed reality. Well, I don't think it really tells us much more about their craftsmanship, maybe some of the technologies they used, and maybe something about their math. But most craftsmen did not use advanced math if they didn't have to.
Is right. It's encoding sacred geometry, which is the very fabric of a universe. And I think it's telling us a tale of the creator's capabilities, their elegance, their knowledge systems, right? Even their mathematical systems, like they might have a base radian system rather than a base 10. Like,
what is a base radian system? I would really like to know that. Because a radian is not a whole number. Let's see if we can get a good definition of a radian. Give me a few seconds here. And apparently my mouse is being a bit difficult. So, radian definition. Use the reliable Google. Okay, so radian, a unit of angle equal to an angle at the center of a circle whose arc is equal to the length of the radius. So why would we use a radian-based number system?
We use, which is an elegant mathematical system. But what Nick said to me is like, you know what this reminds me of?
Listen, I'll let the mathematicians argue over whether or not using a radian-based number system would be an elegant mathematical system, but I'm pretty sure the Egyptians did not do this. Let's see. I think the Egyptians used a different system that wasn't necessarily base 10. Let me check that one. Oh, the Egyptians did have the earliest fully developed base 10 numeration system. Good to know.
He said it reminds me of the gold.
Oh, and by the way, do you know what base 10 is not? A radian.
Golden records that are on the Voyager space probes, right? So when these space probes went out in the 1970s, they had these golden records on them. And it wasn't like we wrote this information on there. We used mathematical principles, geometric principles. We even used the radioactive decay of I think, uranium atoms to provide a launch clock. We gave them all these clues based on different principles and maths on these vases to try and convey information about our species, about who we were, about what we knew. And we sent the goddamn things out into space. I think this vase, it seems to be something like that, but instead of going through space, it's been sent through time.
So the vase is a time traveler coming from the future. So basically, some prankster used their CNC lathe to send it back to ancient Egypt.
It's like one of these golden records that's been sent through time to us, and and if we have the eyes to see it and the ability to decode it, there's all this information that we can glean from it, and we can learn something about the past from it. And that's what Nick was telling me. I was like, that's a fantastic.
All right, I know I'm interrupting quite a bit here, but that's because this clip is short, and I'm trying to fill an hour. But yes, I do agree that we can learn something about the past from ancient artifacts.
Analogy for it, and that's truly what it is. The deeper we look, the deeper this rabbit hole goes on this thing. And yeah, the crazy thing is too, this was the start of the year we did this, and we've been working through it, but it's not the only one.
You guys did more vases?
We're doing more vases. We have literally 20 or 30 more that we're working on now.
Who is giving you Egyptian vases?
results. We're seeing similar results for a lot of them, even better in terms of the pure metrology and precision. Like some of them are zeroing it out on like the 1,000th scale.
What?
We're also measuring stuff in CT machines now, which can go down to the micron. So even like, 25 times more accuracy than the structured light scanning. Yeah, I think,
Gosh,
very interesting. It's, yeah.
So this dude you were hanging out with the other day, he has like a ton of these vases. Do you have that? Can you show that picture?
Yeah.
Of you with all these vases?
Yeah, sure.
Is that the first time you put your hands on one of them?
It's the first time that
Okay, I have no idea who Danny Jones is, and it doesn't really matter.
here's me holding one here. This one actually is translucent. You can see through.
Oh, yeah, it gets the light right through it.
But this is the collection that some of his that we're working on. I've been extremely fortunate, and I do want to. I'm not going to name names.
So if they're Egyptian vases, why are they in such good condition? And why are they being given to you? How old are they? I'm willing to bet these are probably a recent manufacture.
But I'm very grateful to people that have been inspired by this vase work, and they have the means and the ability to go out and collect these things like this, because these are artifacts that can be bought on the antiquities market.
Ah, okay, that's interesting. The antiquities market. So how do you know you're not being sold these vases that have been made in a CNC machine? I would suspect a vast majority of them are, in fact, as I just said, of relatively recent manufacture. I don't think these people are digging things up. I think they're selling these things at high prices to a gullible tourist.
And they cost a bomb, obviously. I can't do it. But I'm extremely grateful. Well, some of them, you up to like $70,000, $80,000, $100,000. The more provenance, the better. Usually, some of them.
I'm sure you can get pretty high quality vases for much lower prices if you just go to a pottery dealer.
Them as low as like a few $1,000s, but mostly the good ones. You're talking 5 figures, if not 6. And I'm very grateful too that they're willing to have them looked at and analyzed. Of course, the goal is to get into the museums and to look at some of those artifacts that are in there. We're working on, creating a standardized process that we can then propose to museums, and we have some very good interactions happening, and we're very hopeful that.
How about looking for ways they've obviously been machined? Because I think that's happening. Also, why is there what appears to be a quartz crystal there? Oh, never mind. I have a good idea, if you believe in sacred geometry, why there's a quartz crystal there.
But in the very near future, we'll be able to get into some museums that do allow this type of research. They're willing to work with us. Petrie Museum being one of them. They've got a number of artifacts that would totally fit within this. I think this technology and this technique is not. We don't have to use it on vases. I'd love to see it done. We want to scan those drill cores that we looked at earlier and really define that spiral groove. We want to be able to. I'd love to see this used on boxes and statues, and be able to really do complex geometric modeling and analysis for those things. So I think we're just on the tip of the iceberg when it comes to learning more about
the statues of the Luxor, for example. Those things were analyzed similar, not obviously under those techniques, but Chris Dunn pointed out that those statues of the Luxor were perfectly symmetrical.
Yeah, perfectly symmetrical. Yeah, and and the way we've done that is with photographic and photogrammetry. But even the smallest, like the sort of relatively small statues, 6-foot statues, I think.
So who is this guy? I don't really know. Give me a second here.
We could scan down to this level of precision, and we can.
We're gonna mute.
We can define just how precise they are, how regular the curves are. I think there's tremendous things we can learn with this technology, and I think that's exactly what I think we should be doing. Because who knows what it'll turn out. I just think we should be following the evidence wherever it leads, no matter how much it kind of upsets the apple cart in terms of the established story of history. So, yeah, it's really interesting stuff, and this has been a huge project this year. And for people that are waiting for more vase file STLs, they're coming. The analysis takes time. Like, this stuff doesn't happen overnight. So, the process is ongoing. I know there's some interest in writing a paper. We were looking for, scientific papers probably coming. But for me, it's the first time I think we've genuinely got some very hard evidence now that is very hard to argue with about significant technology being deployed to make these things. Because the challenge is out there. I would love anyone to make one of these. Like, go make one. If you think you can do it by hand, go for it. If you think you can even machine it with a tool made out of acrylic, go for it. If you think you can get down to these numbers, and trust me, machinists and people that work in these tolerances understand just how well this thing is made. I want to see it. I would love to see people attempt to make it and even come close, because I just think that we're we're light years away from this idea that these things were done by hand at this point.
Right.
And again, remember, these go back to pre-dynastic time.
Do you think that there will be any sort of like attempts to suppress the kind of stuff that you guys are looking at, or like dismiss it, or
yeah, there's already people dismissing it.
What are they saying? What do they say about it?
Well, mostly it's been like, oh, the vase is fake.
It's a fake vase.
Yeah, Alex Dunn so one of the engineers is Chris Dunn's son. He that he's in my video.
So let's come back to that. Yes, I personally think the vases aren't ancient either. I think he's probably being lied to by the antiquities dealers he's purchasing from, and confirmation bias is coming into play. Unlike what we've had for the past couple of Faulty Logic Fridays, we don't have a case of apophenia going on here. We just have a case with confirmation bias, where he badly wants these things to be ancient, so he's seeing them as ancient, even though he needs to test them further and maybe see if they actually are from the right time period. They could even be vases from around the time, but ones that aren't Egyptian.
Videos about this, but I mean, that's the only thing they can come up with that I've heard is, oh, the vase is fake. It's like, you think it was the vase on the provenance on this particular vase goes back to the 1980s.
Well, yes, the vases may be fake. That's not even what drew me to this. It's your claim that the Egyptians had Turing machines. And of course, the fact that Turing machines require an infinite tape means they most certainly did not. Do you have proof of their actual dates? Is there a way you can date them? Can you show us evidence that they date back to when you say they date? I don't even think you're necessarily lying. I think you just got swindled by dishonest antiquities dealers.
Some of these vases' provenance goes back to where in terms of they have a known history, go back to the 1800s. But even in the 1980s, I think...
So they go back to the 1800s, but not ancient Egypt. Okay.
I think you'd be challenged.
I'm thinking I missed something there, maybe?
To make something that precise out of rose granite. And if you think you can make it today, that precise, with that much...
I assure you, Mr. Van Kerkwyk, I cannot make something that precise out of rose granite. But that's because I'm a programmer, not a mason.
like all of that maths that's behind it and everything else.
What maths is behind it?
Try and make it and try and see how much that costs you to make it, and then try and justify that by the cost it's going to, whatever you think you can sell it for on the antiquities market. It's actually damaged. It's the thing, it matches almost perfectly, in fact, to the eye exactly, lots of pre-dynastic vases that you find in the Cairo Museum. In my video, I show a bunch of them. Like,
so it matches to the eye almost perfectly. Pre-dynastic vases in the Cairo Museum. Okay. Which pre-dynastic vases? Which dynasty are you referring to? Egypt had more than one dynasty.
Like it's like it is the same shape and size as many pre-dynastic vases. Obviously, there's a variety of shapes and sizes when it comes to these artifacts, but I mean, just calling it fake is about the best argument anybody's been able to come up with, because they can't handle
Fake how?
Well, somebody manufactured it, and I mean, things do happen. Like people try and.
Judging by your own words here, you're telling us it was made with a precision level that requires modern CNC machining. So that is the most likely explanation. It seems you are misapplying Occam's razor, where we just say the simplest explanation that fits the facts is the most likely explanation. Now, they could indeed be Egyptian vases. You just need to show more proof.
Sell fake artifacts. But it's like this.
And of course, no antiquities dealer has ever been known to sell fake artifacts. It absolutely has never happened anywhere in history, because snake oil salesmen have never had any desire to take care of gullible morons. Take advantage of gullible morons who want to feed into their own confirmation bias.
It's ridiculous to think that you could do that cheaply, or it's not. Look, this is not something that's made in some like backyard workshop in China or India and then mass produced and sold on the market. It's ridiculous. If you think it's fake, try and make one. See how hard, and see if you can get anywhere near it and how much it costs you. I just think it's.
Well, the question is, if I had the material to CNC lathe rose granite quartz or whatever it is you're using, how much would it cost me? Would be a calculation in how much I'm going to sell it for you for, since I know you'll pay exorbitant prices for these vases. This is simply an economics question here, Mr. Ben Van Kerkwyk. If you're willing to pay a high market price for something that you believe to be an Egyptian vase, and I'm representing it that way, I am going to charge you more.
It's a facetious argument with nothing.
And I might even be able to make back what I paid to make the vase, plus a tidy profit.
Behind it more than the desire to dismiss this because it doesn't match their worldview. No one's arguing with the metrology. Like, nobody can challenge the metrology. The scan's out there.
The reason I'm not arguing with it is because you started with a claim I knew to be false, simply because I knew what a Turing machine was and you didn't.
And available. It's public information. You want to do it and you want to figure it out for yourself, the scan's right there. You can make the same calculations Mark made. You can measure it for yourself. You can stick it in a
who is Mark?
CMM and work out the data for yourself. So it's all repeatable. But the best people can come up with is, oh, it's fake, or sacred geometry is woo, is the other thing I've heard.
I can't imagine why people would think sacred geometry is woo, especially since they're assigning arbitrary meanings to shapes.
Which we talked about in detail with Randall. Like, sacred geometry is not woo. Sacred geometry is the universe. It is the fabric of the universe, and it's, knowledge of that is what essentially comprised the mystery schools. And this is like the
mystery schools were also full of woo.
Way you see the world. Like this, the idea that sacred geometry is woo, that's the only other thing I've heard. It's like, oh, as soon as you see the flower of life, forget about it. It's crystal hippie nonsense. Like, it's just people that don't.
Listen, if people were just displaying the flower of life because it's a nice geometric shape, no one would care.
Don't like what it means.
Right.
And they just are seeking any way to try and discredit it, throw shade at me.
How about the fact that some of what you've said here doesn't match with reality? Now, it may take more than one discipline to show you that what you're also saying doesn't match with reality, but you need to actually bring those vases to someone who can carbon date them or date them in some way to show that they date back to when you're saying they date back. Or you could just continue to make bizarre claims on podcasts, knowing that no one is going to check on them.
Because, the crazy ideas that guy has or whatever. It's like, I don't care. And I'm going to, I think...
Of course you don't care. Why care when you can make money by selling people things on podcasts?
These other vases are going to put proof to all of that nonsense too. Like there's vases here that are being scanned that had provenance going back to the 1800s. In fact, funnily enough, one of these vases that happens to be on this table and is owned by this collector and is being scanned and analyzed happens to have been brought up in one of the videos that were made.
Oh, so they're owned by a collector. They're not even yours. How do you know the collector is telling you the truth?
Just like debunking this work as an example of a real vase. So we'll see what this real vase actually looks like, because the dude picked a silly example because turns out this guy owns that vase. Its provenance goes back to the 1800s, and we are going to scan it because it looks to me like it's going to show some similar
Which
properties.
one is it?
It's the back one on the right here, I believe.
That big one?
Yeah, the big one here. Yeah, this guy.
So the guy made the debunking video about that particular.
He used that
vase
as an example, as
a fake vase.
as a real vase.
As a real vase.
So assuming the first vase we scanned was fake. Oh, this is what a real
Hello, spooky bed hair.
vase is. I'm like, okay, bro, let's see.
So
I don't know what results it's going to show. I will say that not every vase shows these properties. There are handmade vases. They did work on it, but there's off.
And my guess is the handmade vases are more likely to be legitimate than the ones that you're saying were made with essentially a CNC lathe. Because we all know the Egyptians had advanced computing technology. Don't you know the Egyptians invented the internet?
Often a visible difference between the ones that show these sort of precision properties versus the ones that don't. Most of the handmade stuff is alabaster, but there were still handmade hardstone vases as well, and you can usually pretty clearly tell the difference.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a fascinating space. I'm just.
Now, are they all found in Egypt?
These are there is some actual artifacts from around the world that I'd love to see subject.
So they weren't even all found in Egypt, and are using these vases as claims that the Egyptians had advanced computers? Wait, what? How does this help your case?
Connected to some of this process as well. But in general, yeah, a lot of this stuff. They got and I would like to scan other artifacts like Roman things, and typically there's not a lot of hardstone artifacts like this that seem to display those levels of precision that come from other.
Oh, the Romans definitely had quantum computing. If the Egyptians had Turing machines.
Cultures, and obviously the technologies that they were using were getting better too. But I'd love to scan them and compare them, because even primitive lathe made stuff I don't think is going to come anywhere near the precision of these. The best, I don't know of any particular examples outside of these things in Egypt. This seems to be a pretty common. There, Magna Fuente bowl. There's maybe a few others that I'd love to see scanned. But yeah, I think this technology is applicable for lots of different artifacts.
Yeah, they're like.
Unfortunately, I don't know what technology he's referring to. He did say something about CT scanning earlier, and that might be what he's talking about, but I'm not sure.
Time capsules from a previous civilization of aliens trying to teach us something. But what are they trying to teach us, Ben?
Of course, aliens did it. The answer for everything in this space.
They're telling us that they knew, man. I think a lot of it is an expression of. We're not trying to teach whoever the hell finds the Voyager probes anything. We're just trying to let them know that we were here.
We were here. Yeah. We had it figured out.
Yeah.
Well, bro, you got to catch a flight.
I do at some point. Yes.
So in about 5 minutes, you got to get out of here.
Okay.
So thanks for coming, dude. We fucking killed it. We did a whole flurry of podcasts this weekend.
We did. Very enjoyable, man. Thanks for bringing me out again. Always great to see you.
Hell yeah. Where can people find out more about what you're doing? Keep up. Obviously, sure, a lot of people listening already know, but for people that don't, tell them where they can research you online, read, I don't know, your book's not out yet, right?
No, yeah, I'm working on it. It's probably going to be a little while for the book, but yeah, Ben Van Kerkwyk's the name if you want to look me up, but otherwise unchartedx.com or youtube.com/c/unchartedx. I'm also on Spotify, on Rumble. You can find all my videos on Spotify. Like I said, I'm on
Rumble, wow.
Yeah, no, I'm throwing stuff on Rumble too for now. But you can almost. I'm on social media. I'm not super active on there, but yeah, Twitter, Instagram. That's linked at on the website and pretty much in all of the videos. But yeah, YouTube's the main place.
Yeah, you engaging in some of the Twitter drama going on right now?
I don't play that, man. If I wouldn't be on social media if it wasn't for this stuff. But
yeah,
there was some. I did get some enjoyment out of some of the things I saw happen on Twitter yesterday.
It's so funny that people there's people on Twitter just for that stuff, and there's people like you who are just on there just to show the stuff you're doing in the real world.
Yeah,
and it's so funny when you see those two worlds collide.
I ain't got no time for social media nonsense. Honestly, I don't care. I'm not spending time on social media looking at what people said about what, and
yeah,
I think Twitter's meant for arguments. It's literally engaged for conflict. It's so stupid.
Twitter, the perfect technological nuance killing machine. At least when it comes to this, Ben Van Kerkwyk, we are mostly on the same page. But although Twitter is a cesspool, it is occasionally fun to swim in. At least until Elon Musk kills it with his incompetence.
That's its nature. It's fine.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, I'll link everything below, and thanks again. We got to get you back. What are you working on? Anything new right now that's coming out soon, or what do you got going? What do you got going on in the pipeline?
I am actually. I'm taking another look at the Serapeum here shortly. I've just got back from England. We didn't even talk about the stone circle stuff, but I am. That's a lot of research involved in that for me as well. But new look at the Serapeum is coming up. Plus,
well, of course, if the stone circles in Great Britain, by which I assume you mean Stonehenge, are computers, certainly the Egyptians had them too, because Stonehenge was built before the pyramids, I think.
I haven't really done a video talking about the Osiris shaft. I have, there's some other structures up there in Giza that are interesting. South America. Yeah, I'm always working on things. There's another Vase video coming about the recent scans and some more data coming about those.
Were you filming when you were down there in Sarasota?
Yeah, a lot of pictures. Okay. Yeah, yes. This was a chance for me to see these things in person, handle them in person. It was the first time, as we said, that I'd ever got to handle them like full units. You can find pieces of them in Egypt and like beneath the Step Pyramid, but yeah, the first time I actually can handle them, yeah, it was a thrill, man. I'm really thankful to that guy.
And that's another reason why I'm more likely to think these are fake than actually authentic vases. And that's that most of them you seem to have found are complete vases rather than mostly broken. It's not that we occasionally don't find complete vases, it's just that time takes a toll on most pottery.
For letting me play with his toys.
Tell him to at least put a seatbelt around him when he's driving around in a Porsche.
One might have fallen off the front seat of his car. I wasn't there. He said it's fine. It's made of granite. It's not gonna.
Okay, well, that is the end of that video. I did not play the whole thing. I spared you the full 3-hour podcast because most of it, I assume, was just talking about these vases. But I have some questions. So let me see. Are these vases even real? Has anyone debunked them? What time do they actually date to? Are they even Egyptian? How does he know he hasn't been duped by artifact stealers dealing in antiquities? And these are things I should probably look up when I'm done with the stream tonight. Spooky Bed here. It is possible he's really lucky in finding on-smashed vases. I don't know. Personally, I have my doubts about the precision claims he's making. But we are done with Faulty Logic Fridays for tonight. Join us next week, same faulty time, same faulty channel, and go out and write some excellent code.